Yahoo Fantasy Auto Racing Week 31 in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series and the Yahoo Fantasy Auto Racing season was completed Saturday night following the Bank of America 500 held at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the 1.5-mile oval in Concord, North Carolina. Your race results from the event: Jamie McMurray picks up the victory. A non-chaser picks up a win during the chase, a rarity in the NASCAR playoffs. Kyle Busch comes home second with Jimmy Johnson third, Denny Hamlin fourth, and Greg Biffle coming home in fifth. Your point standings following the event: Jimmy Johnson pads his lead by a few more points, now leads Denny Hamlin by 41, with Kevin Harvick in third, 77 points back, and then a big gap back to fourth place Jeff Gordon, who's now 156 points out of first, and we have a tie for fifth between Kyle Busch and Tony Stewart, both drivers 177 points back. Your race notes from the event: Jeff Gordon sat on pole. He actually ran pretty well throughout the event up until about midway through the race when he started to experience an electrical problem with the car, had to switch batteries, lost a ton of time on the track, and the team wound up in catch-up mode for the rest of the event. Jeff Gordon would wind up finishing 23rd. Ryan Newman brought out the first of many yellows of the evening. On lap 2, he hit the wall pretty hard, didn't take anybody with him, but wound up behind the wall fixing the car and would have a very disappointing finish outside the top 35 this week. Kurt Busch, another chaser who found some trouble on Saturday night, he spun on lap 24 and would really not be a factor from that point on. He wound up finishing 30th, having a very disappointing evening, losing a ton of ground to the rest of the chasers. Jimmy Johnson, he actually also spun. He had a solo spin on lap 33, but by lap 189, he had already rallied back to the lead and would lead some laps under green. So Kurt Busch never recovered from the spin. Jimmy Johnson did the exact opposite. Johnson almost acted as if the spin motivated him to get back up to the front even faster. Kyle Busch was pretty much the dominant car all evening, though. He led the most laps, despite even having a period where his throttle was sticking, and he was having to use the kill switch in the car to get the car to slow down at certain parts of the track. Kyle Busch had a very dominant, very fast race car for much of the evening. Casey Kane had the biggest wreck of the evening. He crashed coming off turn 4 and in the process took out Sam Hornish. Both cars were very heavily damaged. A side story to this: Casey Kane actually blew up at his crew on the radio, apparently having something to do with the fact that his brakes had given out for the second time in 3 weeks. Kane then said that he was too ill to get back in the race car when the team wanted to go ahead and run some extra laps for extra points. The team actually recruited J.J. Yaley to fill in for the rest of the event. Kane was actually interviewed and did admit to blowing up at his crew. So rumors have run rampant that Kane actually did not want to get back in the car because he was very unhappy with his team's performance, more so than actually being sick. So we'll have to see how that story plays out with 5 races left before Kane departs from the number 9 car. Jamie McMurray and Jimmy Johnson, getting back to the race, they actually did take the lead away from Kyle Busch for portions throughout the mid part of the race. Then we also saw some solo spins by Marcos Ambrose, who spun yet again. This is probably the 3rd or 4th race in a row that he spun. Robbie Gordon, he also spun. Robbie Gordon's in a very tight battle for 35th in points. And why does that matter? 35th in points is the final spot that is guaranteed to start the race on Sunday, regardless of where they qualify. If Robbie Gordon falls to 36th in points, then his team is not guaranteed to qualify on Friday and will have to race their way in. And when all is said and done, Gordon still holds that 35th place spot in the point standings, but by just 5 points over the 38 car that's being driven by, among other drivers, David Gilliland. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, especially if you're looking to see who you want to start on Friday in the Fantasy Auto Racing Series. And who you'll have to watch to see if they even qualify for the race. Also in the race, Jeff Burton, he once again had a very disappointing performance in the chase. He has been a huge disappointment in this chase so far. Very uncontrollably loose race car. He even had a solo spin on lap 246. So much so that there was so much smoke in the car, he needed his spotter to drive him back to pit road. A.J. Allmendinger had a promising run, but he wound up losing a cylinder. He would limp the car home and finish the race, but he left a lot of points on the table this Saturday night as well. And then Jamie McMurray, with 30 laps to go on a restart, McMurray actually outdueled Kyle Busch and took the lead. And McMurray would leave Kyle and Jimmy Johnson in his dust, picking up his 4th victory of the season. In the Tucson Racing League, the 7th win of the season goes to the Wall Always Wins with 299 points, a very low score, but the Wall Always Wins is now tied for the league lead with Hulk Smash and High, Wide, and Handsome, as all 3 teams have won 7 times so far this year, and this could not have come at a more important time for the Wall. The Wall picked up 3rd from Jimmy Johnson in Group A and 8th from Kevin Harvick in Group B, and then mediocre to disappointing performances from Jeff Burton, who was 20th, and A.J. Allmendinger in Group C with a 25th. Second this week was Team Edwards, the driver, just 10 points out of first this week. Have 3 drivers in the top 10. That was Jimmy Johnson in 3rd, Kevin Harvick in 8th, Matt Kenseth in 6th, and then the very disappointing Sam Hornish, who was actually running in the top 20 before he was taken out by Casey Kane. Hornish, with all the damage, wound up finishing 40th. Third this week was Woe A Left Turn with 279 points, 20 points out of first. Woe continues a very impressive fall. Woe is actually the leader in the fall standings, which doesn't really count for anything officially, but it does show that Woe is definitely coming on strong in the latter part of the season here. Woe had 6th place out of Matt Kenseth, and then some disappointing performances out of B driver Clint Boyer, who was 17th, A driver Jeff Gordon with 23rd, and A.J. Allmendinger in 25th. 4th was Hulk Smash, who actually, despite getting 4th place, made up a ton of ground in the point standings. We'll get to that in just a second. Hulk Smash had 278 points, was just 21 points out of first this week, was the only team to start the race winner this week, Jamie McMurray, but then no other drivers in the top 17 spots, as the next best driver was Reed Sorensen out of Group C in 18th. Jeff Burton was 20th, and then Tony Stewart in Group A was 21st. Rounding out the top 5 this week, Kane Rules, who still manages to put up some pretty surprising results here in this latter part of the season. 236 points was good enough for 5th this week, 63 points off the pace. David Rudiman and Kevin Harvick both had top 10 runs for Kane Rules. And then Group A, disappointing Kurt Busch was 30th. And Group C, a disappointing run from Paul Menard, who actually had a pretty good car early in the race, but wound up finishing 24th regardless. 6th this week was Greek Thunder. 208 points, 91 out of first. Best driver this week was Clint Boyer in 17th. Throw in a 19th from Scott Speed, a 23rd out of Jeff Gordon, and a 36th out of Ryan Newman. 7th this week, a very disappointing performance from Lightning McQueen when McQueen really needed it most. McQueen finishes 96 points out of first place. Best driver this week was Jeff Burton in 20th. Had 2 other drivers in the 20s. That was Jeff Gordon 23rd and A.J. Allmendinger 25th. And then Ryan Newman in 36th. 8th this week continues to be a problem for Oh No, a blowout with just 188 points, over 100 points off the pace this week. Started Dale Earnhardt Jr. again, despite having no starts for him. Had 2 drivers in the teens. That was Clint Boyer 17th, Scott Speed 19th, and then Jeff Gordon in Group A for 23rd. And then probably the biggest surprise of Week 31. Dead last this week was High, Wide, and Handsome, the points leader. Threw a bunch of points back at the rest of the pack, finishing with just 172 points this week. Over 100 points off the pace, 127 points out of first to be exact. Very disappointing day for High, Wide, and Handsome. Had 1 driver in the top 10, that was David Rudiman in 9th, but then had 3 drivers with serious problems. Jeff Gordon with a 23rd in Group A. Ryan Newman crashed. He wound up 36th, and Sam Hornish got crashed. He wound up 40th. So a very bad performance out of High, Wide, and Handsome when Handsome does not need to be doing this. Wound up giving a lot of points back to Hulk Smash. As we go to the overall standings, Handsome still maintains a pretty decent lead with just 5 races to go. But Hulk Smash is now just 222 points out of first place. Now, if you break that down over the next 5 races, Hulk is going to need to make up 45 points a race to be able to take the lead and when all is said and done in Homestead. But Hulk now has a very real shot of making this a race as we come down to the wire. Hulk also, with the performance of Lightning McQueen, put a lot of distance between himself and third. McQueen sits third now, 329 points out of first, but now 107 out of second. So Hulk very quickly passed McQueen and then put McQueen away. McQueen's still going to be hanging on, though, trying to claw his way back into second. with 5 races left. Fourth now in the overall standings, the Wall always wins, 435 points out, 106 points out of third. The Wall actually, by winning, made up a ton of points on Lightning McQueen. So we have some races going on here between first and second, second and third and fourth. So it should get interesting here with just 5 races remaining. Rounding out the top 5, Greek Thunder sits 788 points out of first place. 6th is Edwards. Team Edwards is 977 points out. And then we have Whoa, a left turn, Oh No, a blowout, and Kane Rules rounding out the field. Next week is week 32 in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. The series heads to Martinsville, Virginia. The Martinsville Speedway, the half-mile oval. The Tums Fast Relief 500, a 250-lap, 500-mile event on Sunday. The pool of drivers is going to lock Friday at 2 in the morning, and you'll be able to switch your pool around up until Sunday at 10 a.m. So we'll hope to see you back next Monday probably for the Week 32 review of the Tucson Racing League Yahoo Fantasy Auto Racing.